My name is Thomas J. Hollis, and I'm the son of Lieutenant Thomas Bays Hollis. My father was a proud World War II veteran who lived to 101 years old. He was a lieutenant aboard the USS Panamint and fought bravely during the Battle of Okinawa, where he was under constant kamikaze attack for almost 3 months. His bunkmate aboard that ship, who became his lifelong friend, was Lieutenant Henry Eugene Vickers. Lieutenant Vickers turned 104 years old on Veterans Day, November 11, 2019. The video you're about to see was taken on such day. I had the privilege of taking Mr. Vickers and his family to the U.S. Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C., where they honored him outside on their plaza during their Veterans Day ceremony. Then we went inside and I honored Lieutenant Vickers with a plaque, just like I did for my father when he was 99 years old.
I mentioned earlier there are two special people, and I saved Lieutenant Vickers for last. Lieutenant Henry Eugene Vickers is a World War II sailor, a seagoing sailor, which, when I thought about what I was going to say, I did not necessarily know, sir, you were going to wear that uniform, so I guess I really did not need to say that. I envy that hat. Lieutenant Vickers was married 2 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Matter of fact, he was married for 66 years before his wife passed away, sadly, at the age, in 2010. He was commissioned December 1st, 1942. And we've all heard those stories about the reaction of the greatest generation following the attack on Pearl Harbor, when the only option, the only internal option, deep-seated, for those people back in the early 40s was to raise your right hand and go to war. And that's exactly what Lieutenant Vickers did. Sir, we're honored that you are here today. I'd like to give you one other little statistic on Lieutenant Vickers. Lieutenant Vickers was born on November 11th, 1915. November 11th, 1915. So I would like to break with a little tradition, and I've gotten Admiral Lottie's permission to do so, and I would like to ask Senior Chief Williams to lead us in a loud American rendition of Happy Birthday on this Veterans Day. Lieutenant Vickers, this is for you, sir.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vickers. Happy birthday to you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us. It's a wonderful day today. And as we experience today and we think about what it's about, I would ask you to recall and think about and focus on the oath of office that the men and women take who serve our country. They take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. In other words, they're saying, I'm going to put my life on the line for our way of life. And for that, we have no better debt than we have for those people who have done that. So thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the afternoon.
It is now my special honor to introduce Lieutenant Henry Eugene Vickers, a 104-year-old veteran of the World War II in the Pacific. Lieutenant Vickers joined the United States Navy and received a commission upon graduation from the training facility at Harvard. Upon completing his officer training, Lieutenant Vickers was ordered to USS Ganymede, a Carter-class cargo ship. He speaks of the hardships of leaving home, but proudly shares, you never liked leaving your wife and daughter, but you just did it. There was no question in those days. This is what you were called to do, you did it. While on the USS Ganymede, he sailed to the South Pacific and visited Australia to deliver troops and supplies. He was then assigned to the USS Panamint, a Mount McKinley-class amphibious force command ship, which was under construction. Upon joining the crew of the USS Panamint, he served as signal officer on the bridge. Vickers participated in Iwo Jima, and Okinawa invasions. While recalling his experiences during the Okinawa invasion, he shares, kamikazes were coming all the time. They were aiming for us. I'll never forget this one that was right across us. We shot him down on the other side of the ship. Of all of his harrowing memories, he is most proud of his family and his homecoming after the conclusion of the war. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Vickers.
My name is Tom Hollis, and I'll be leading this afternoon's plaque dedication ceremony for Lieutenant Henry Eugene Vickers. I'm the son of Lieutenant Thomas Bayes Hollis, a U.S. Navy World War II veteran who served aboard the USS Panamint during the Battle of Okinawa in 1945. I dedicated a plaque here in my father's honor 25 years ago when he was 99 years old, and he dedicated one for the Panamint. Can anybody hear me okay? The Panamint was an amphibious force command ship with the most advanced communications equipment at the time for large-scale battles. It served as the flagship for Rear Admiral Schneider for the almost three-month-long Battle of Okinawa in 1945. This was a key battle off the coast of Japan at the end of World War II. My father was a communications officer who worked on translating messages to other ships, and he also served as the officer in charge of the rear gunnery crew when the Panamint was in battle. My father loved serving aboard this ship. After the war ended, he was asked to stay aboard as the Panamint's chief executive officer, which is essentially the second in command under the captain, and he would have been promoted to commander. If he was single, he would have stayed and done that, but he came home to take care of my mother and oldest sister, who was born during Okinawa in May. He entered the Navy as a pharmacist and later became an officer at midshipman school in Notre Dame. There's a picture of him there. There's another one in Newport, Rhode Island, after he was promoted to lieutenant with my mother, where he trained crewmen for the Panamint, and Lieutenant Vickers tells me he was there for a time too with him. There he is at a few months after 100 years old in his original Navy uniform that he wore in battle. But we're here today to honor another brave, important officer who served aboard the Panamint. My father's bunkmate for over a year on that ship, and then his friend for the next 70 years until my father passed on. And that's Lieutenant Henry Eugene Vickers. Here's a picture of him 4 years ago today at Veterans Day Parade in Media, where he was clapping somebody else. How about if we all stand and clap for him right now for turning 104 years old and being here such a blast. So we're here to dedicate this new plaque to honor Lieutenant Vickers and his brave service. Mr. Vickers, your plaque will be here on display in this Navy Memorial for public visitors to see and your family whenever they want to return. I made sure you got the top spot right above the Panamint where you belong. You stood on the bridge on top of the Panamint flagship, played an important role in signaling to other ships during the Okinawa battle while under attack from waves of suicide Japanese kamikaze planes. The threat lasting day after day for that almost three-month-long battle. You've told me stories of some crewmen jumping over ship when those planes came in, but you bravely held your ground atop the bridge of that ship. You did your duties with bravery and courage day in and day out, despite they wanted to kill you and the captain and the admiral that were right by you. So your plaque is going to be above the Panamint, and my father's below, right where they both belong.
He's my granddad and Delaney's great-granddad. Well, today's his birthday, so today's party day, so 104 birthdays is pretty good. And then just a day to say thank you. Thank you to him and everybody else for their service on Veterans Day. I grew up, ever since I can remember, hearing stories, and he always talks about the kamikazes, he always talks about torpedoes, he talks about his friends, but when we were little, he had stuff downstairs. He had swords and guns and uniforms, and we'd go downstairs and we'd point at the different things, and that would remind him of some stories that he didn't always tell. And he told stories about going onto the islands and finding this stuff when he was in World War II. They were island hopping, and they'd go on after a battle. We said, "Did you fight in the battle?" He goes, "No, I was on the ship, but I went in afterwards." And the stuff that he traded for, that was, some of it was Japanese stuff, some of it was from other soldiers. was pretty cool. So we heard all that. When I turned 16, he gave us a bayonet from World War II. He gave something to each of the grandsons, and that was something that he traded for.
I took care of Mr. Hollis, who was Mr. Vickers' good friend, and that's how I met him. I went down there on their birthday when they had the two sets of cupcakes, and that's when I met Mr. Vickers, although Mr. Hollis talked about him quite a bit. The fact that these men put their lives on the line to defend the country, and that was a very special group of veterans, the World War II veterans. I think of my dad, who was also a World War II veteran. He talked a lot about making smoke and how he tried to hide the ships from the kamikaze. And he talked about how scared they were, too. That they were always stressed every minute because they thought there was going to be another attack. So, yeah, he talked pretty good about it.
I am his oldest daughter. I was born August after Pearl Harbor. Today symbolizes my dad's birthday, but it is Veterans Day, so we remember our veterans who gave their lives for us, to have freedom. He shared so many, it's hard to pick one, but one that he loves to tell is about the Kazakamis coming across his ship. Now, there were so many attacks on his ship, and this one was coming right at their ship. They could see the guy's face. And right before it hit their ship, he pulled out of the dive, which they never do. And he went across the ship, and they shot him down on the other side. During that time when it was so close, two guys on the back of the ship jumped overboard because it was going to be struck by this bomb. And they jumped overboard and they got in trouble for abandoning the ship because he pulled out of his dive, which they saw his face was that close. And they don't know how he pulled out of his dive. My dad says the Lord protected him. So that's his answer for that one.
I am one of his 4 daughters. I'm the second in line. My name is Barbara, and I have the same last name, Vickers. Today is so special to me because of knowing what Dad went through in World War II and what our men in uniform just give up their lives to serve our country so that we are safe. And the older that I get, the more I really hang on to that idea of how they put country first. And like Dad just left his family, brand new baby and his new wife, and he said, I have to serve my country because we want a free country. And so Veterans Day to me is honoring all the military who went before us who aren't here anymore, and the military like Dad who's 104 who's still here, and the young men that are out there now. We have to remember how special they are and what they give up. They give up holidays, they give up family life for a number of years. So it's a very special day of celebration for me. And I'm glad to see that in schools they take time, and sometimes they have the day off, which is nice, but they take time to realize that Veterans Day is honoring our military, because that's why we have a free country. My dad did not share things for years until just a few years ago. Somebody told us about honor flight. So I put him on the honor flight. I went with him as his guardian. And we came to Washington and saw all of the museums and all of the memorials from the different wars. So then all of a sudden his stories started to come out. He was about 98, he's 104 now. About kamikazes that were coming at his ship, and he could see the eyes. A kamikaze is a Japanese in a plane, a suicide bomber. They never expect to go home. And he saw the eyes of that man who got that close and pulled back on the throttle. And the captain of the ship said they had never, ever seen a suicide pilot chicken out like that. And so he pulled back, he went up, and they shot him down on the other side of the ship. And a couple of torpedoes were going through their, towards their ship, and the captain turned the ship just a little bit, and both torpedoes went on either side. So it's like, wow, they were under fire for one battle was 35 days straight where the kamikazes were coming at them. So it's scary, the stories that they don't volunteer to tell because they want to forget that. But we're so glad they're sharing it because that's history and that's what's kept us free.
He's my father. I'm the youngest of the 4 daughters. I was born well after World War II. I think it's really nice that he is being honored by other people because we honor him all the time and we consider him to be a great man of God and we have honored him in many ways. But it wasn't until more recently that we started becoming more aware of a lot of the details of his military service.
Welcome home!
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Well, thanks, family, for asking us to be here today.
For your time today.
Thanks again.
Thank you for coming.
Today is Sunday, November 8th, 2020, and I'd like to thank Dr. Matt Fesh and his students who traveled to Washington last year, Veterans Day 2019, to celebrate and record the event of Lieutenant Vickers' 104th birthday. What a great day that was. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to organize that event and take Mr. Vickers and his family and friends to have such a great day in his honor that he deserves so much. A lot's happened in the past year. We've had a pandemic, we've had violence in this country, and one thing that's been constant is Lieutenant Vickers. He's with us today. He's happy, he's optimistic, he's hopeful, he's a spirit of inspiration for all of us. He's a man to honor and to always love. We thank you for your service, Lieutenant Vickers, and God willing, you'll be celebrating your 105th birthday 3 days from now, excuse me. And I know you meant so much to my father, who meant a lot to me. And this picture right here remains my favorite picture of all time. Two of you together as centurions, proud centurions who fought on the USS Panamint for our freedom so bravely. Again, I'd like to thank the Vickers family for helping make that event happen. And again to you, Lieutenant Vickers, thank you for your friendship the last few years. Thank you for letting me honor you on Veterans Day and celebrate your wonderful birthdays. God bless you. May God keep you safe.